Join us as career changers, company leaders, industry experts, and others who have been in your shoes share their stories, insights, and lessons learned to help you find enjoyment through employment in the tech world. I'm Nemo Ashong, and this is the Empjoyment Podcast. Heyo, employees. Do you mind if I start off this episode here with a personal celebration? As you're listening to this episode, I am traveling through Japan for the first time in my life. And trust me, I'm super excited about that specific fact. But I think what really gets me excited is knowing what this means. To me, what this means, what this represents is that I've stepped into another level of enjoyment and I've created another thing that I really was hoping to do when I started out on this path. You see, when I first met my wife, at that time she was my girlfriend, she told me within 6 months of us dating that she wanted to move over to Brazil. And she's like, just so you know, I don't see myself living in New York my entire life. I like you, but as soon as a job opportunity opens up, I am gone. Now, me being me, I'm happy that I recognized a good thing when I saw it and decided to stick around to see how that opportunity transpired and manifested. But I did make the commitment to myself that I would have to find some way to be able to support myself, support her and our grown family at some point, while still incorporating this thing that brought my wife to life. Travel. It was a real important part of her life. And I knew that if I really wanted to be someone that added value to her and that was going to go forth and commit to her, I needed to make sure that I put myself in a position to make that happen. And to tell you the truth, when I talk about this here, I realized like this was one of my first steps into trying to find enjoyment and realizing that, you know, my path as an actuary may not afford me that level of flexibility that I felt that my life would need, and I know that I personally wanted. And so I appreciate you letting me share this personal story because now that we're out here in Japan, like it's happening, you know, I set out that intention and it is happening. I'm excited for what comes next. I'm excited for fully living and enjoying this part of our life and what it means for us and what it means for you. Right? Because you're still able to benefit from an amazing conversation in a way that it doesn't even matter where I am in the world or where you are in the world, or even cooler, when you are in the world. It boggles my mind that you might be listening to this in 2020 or 2025. I can't even, I'm still not even able to stretch beyond there. So let me just do it. 2075. I'm still caught in 20s. Have you realized that? But wow, to think that these limitations aren't here. And I'll share, I'm sure over time, some of the things that I wanted from my experience moving forward. One of the big things there, I was a consultant at the time and I wanted to get to a place where I wasn't trading time for dollars, to move out of a billable hour world. And that's what I've been able to do with my life right now. And I'm so excited there. And I figured if we're talking about enjoyment, it's important for me to share my visions and how I've been experiencing enjoyment just as much as all the ways that our guests here have been experiencing it. So I thank you. I thank you for letting me share this. And I think I feel a little bit more comfortable sharing this after having this conversation with Dorianne St. Fleur. She is fantastic. And she brought all her passion to this conversation. Her passion to me lies around helping people similar to what we do here at Enjoyment, helping them find their path on their career and to maximize that career and to be as successful as they truly can be throughout their career. Dorianne's an HR business partner whose background has taken her from finance all over the place until she found where her heart lies. She's also a career coach over at yourcareergirl.com. And I want to say before we even start here, just thank you, Dorianne. It's so great that there are others on this mission to help people truly be the full versions of themselves. As you can see, employees, there are people out there that are ready to help you move forward in your journey and spend that time with you to get you there. So I'm going to offer to you an opportunity to spend time with me directly and have us explore your enjoyment journey through a complimentary one-on-one exploration session with me. We'll focus on exploring what you truly want out of your career and what the outcomes of that will be for you in the rest of your life. We're not about point solutions here at Enjoyment. There are a lot of other places you can go for that, but employees know that we're in it for the long run. We're in it for the impact we can have in our own personal lives and on those around us. And this coaching session allows us to explore that and find out what are our strengths and how do we communicate and pass that on to potential employers so that we can start living the life that we want to live now, not 3 years from now, not 6 months from now. Like, get into it. Let's figure out what we need to do to make that happen. The first step is to be bold enough to figure out what it is that we want. It's weird. I'm even like a little whispering as I say it, what it is that we want. I want you to go to enjoyment.com/coaching and apply for a one-on-one coaching session with me, completely complimentary, as my gift to you. I want you to be able to move forward in your journey today. And I want you to experience more joy than you might have even thought possible. I'm sitting here, I'm smiling because I'm thinking about all these words I'm saying to you and the conversations we're going to have. And I'm also thinking about the conversations that I did have with Dorianne. I'm excited for you to check that out. So why don't we go ahead and make that happen? Enjoy. Hello, and welcome to the Enjoyment Podcast, where we're focused on helping people just like you find enjoyment through employment. Today, we are joined by Dorianne St. Fleur. Dorianne, would you like to say a quick hello to employees out there?
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Nemo, for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for making the time to come out here and share your story and help us move forward in our journey. And what we'd like to do is get to know you a little bit better. So let me let employees get to know you from a professional standpoint, and then we'd like to dive into your personal life a little bit. So Dorianne graduated from Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia in 2005 with a Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology. Dorianne started her career in sales and trading operations at Goldman Sachs before making a switch to the Human Resources Group. She's since gone on to work in HR departments at other global banks, and as of November 2016, has transitioned into the HR team at an advertising tech company. Dorianne, so that's a little snapshot about you professionally here. Why don't you let us know a little bit more about you personally? Can you tell us about your life, love, work, and passion?
Sure. Again, thank you for having me. That's funny. That bio kind of sums up about 13 years of work experience in like 3 sentences. So that was a little mind-boggling to me. But outside of all of that, I guess my, passion is really family at this point. So I'm a husband, and I really try to find time to spend time with them with all of the things that I do with, my day-to-day and my side business and just finding time for myself. I really just try to make an effort to carve out time to do the family thing. So that's something that I'm passionate about. Also passionate about empowering women just through their own careers and through their own just confidence building and things like that. So you can find me, leading workshops and just having mastermind sessions and just doing anything I can to really help women specifically, but everyone kind of just be empowered to tap into their purpose and be their best selves. So those are some things that kind of resonate with me outside of the office.
That is so much fun. And I can already hear that feeling of empowerment coming through, Dorianne. It's already coming through the microphone here, and such. So you were saying that you work with your family. It might have cut out just a little bit there. So you mentioned your husband. Is there other people in your family that that you also had mentioned earlier?
Yes. My 3-year-old daughter Victoria. She's like the highlight of my husband and our life. So yes.
All right. Well, thank you there. I'm really, really excited to explore your journey. I'm really excited to also have this lens of empowering others and empowering women through this year. It'd be great to find out more about how you do that, what your takes are on that, and how employees, regardless of their gender, can go ahead and move forward in their journey. But before we do that, Dorianne, before we get there, I like to spend a little bit of time focusing on how you see the world, how you go about making forward progress. And I like to do this through a success quote or a mantra or some kind of motto. So would you mind sharing with us some kind of success quote that you've used to guide you through your professional journey?
Sure. Well, my success quote comes from someone who's not necessarily like a business. Well, no, I'll take that back. She is a businesswoman, but not who you would normally think of when you think of career success quote. But it's something that she said in the past that's really resonated with me. And this person is Beyonce. And the quote that I'd like to use is, she says, I don't gamble, but the one thing that I am willing to bet on is myself. And I know, for me, like just thinking about all of the transitions that I have been through in my career and in my life, like technically I'm not really I'm not a person who enjoys taking high risk, but there's something about when, I really feel like I'm tapping into what I'm supposed to be doing, and I feel like I have the abilities behind me. I'm willing to gamble on myself, and I'm willing to take that leap of faith. And so far, I've had positive results from that. So I'm just going to continue to forge forward and do like Beyonce says and gamble on myself.
Ooh, I like this here. So tell me a little bit here about a time where you gambled on yourself here, and you really did. You had mentioned tapped into like what you're supposed to be doing. So let me know a little bit more about that. Would you mind giving us an example of that?
Sure. Yeah. So when I think about, I mentioned earlier that along with my HR work that I do in my 9 to 5, I also am a career coach on the side for my business. It's called Your Career Girl, and as you know, coming into your journey right now to entrepreneurship and everything you're doing with enjoyment, like it's a lot of work. It's a lot. You're putting yourself out there. You are, you're kind of putting your views out there. You're letting people understand what's in your head, how you think. You're taking this risk and you're taking this leap. And for me to do that, I'm not doing it full time, but for me to even sacrifice the time, energy, effort that I have been doing, what's keeping me and what's fueling me to continue to do that is the fact that I know that at my core, I'm supposed to be teaching. I'm supposed to be empowering. I'm supposed to be inspiring people to take action in their lives and in their careers. So it's just something that I feel like I really have no choice when I have late nights and, 60, 70 hour work weeks and just so many things going on. What fuels me and what keeps me going is this idea of like what the end result is going to be. Why am I doing this? How my purpose is wrapped up in what it is that I'm doing. And I know many people who started businesses or who've, wanted to take a different turn in their career, but just can't get over that hump of feeling like, they're not good enough, or why would anyone listen to them? And so I really, it's a constant struggle. It's not like every day is roses and every day I feel confident and I'm ready to, grab the bull by the horns and do what it is that, I'm meant to do. But just in the back of my mind, knowing that, I'm worth the risk and that what I have, the value that I have to give is worth all of this. I think it's something that propels me every day.
And thank you for that, Dorianne, because like you being able to step out and you being able to like say to yourself, I'm betting on myself. I'm worth the risk out there. Now, all of us employees get a chance to benefit from it. All the people that you help through Your Career Girl get a chance to benefit from it. And it's because you went out there and you stepped out and you made that happen. And I think, Dorianne, there's things about what you're saying. Like, yeah, me and you, like we might be like in this entrepreneurial side of things with it. But I mean, we're all out there. It feels like building the life that we want. And really, you had mentioned like the purpose that you're living for. And moving toward that. And, employees, I just encourage you as you're listening to this here, and I'm just feeling such great things are going to come from this conversation, just seeing where Dorianne's energy is and what she's already bringing to the table. I encourage you to translate this to yourself here. Like she already mentioned, like she has her purpose. She knows what she wants to do in life, and she knows how she can continue to help people. But she's doing it on the side. She's taking on extra work to do it. She's working late nights. She's working early mornings. We had talked even before here. I know how early her morning is going to be. She has a family that at the same time that she's she's helping to grow and being a part of. And all these things could come in a way and say like, oh, maybe these are reasons why I shouldn't move forward. But Dorianne is putting that out there and continue to make that progress regardless. I just encourage you, as you are listening to this and as you think about your journey here, it may not be to start up something new on your own, but it might be those extra hours that you put into a course or the extra hours that you do to create your own project or build your portfolio to help you get into a job in technology. Whatever it is for you, just know that you're not out there alone doing it. There are people out there doing it. And what I like to do now is dive more into Dorianne's story as to how she got to this point. So Dorianne, help us understand what you do right now in your current role. And then what we like to do then is just see okay, how did you make that transition? How did you go from working in finance to being in HR and tech? So would you let us know a little bit more about what you're doing right now so we have that picture, and then we'll dive into your journey?
Sure. So currently I am an HR business partner, also known as a people partner in the tech world. They typically call the HR team the people team. So, and what that means is I partner with the businesses that I support. So I support about 225 employees at my company. From everything, once an employee is hired, I partner with them all the way through until they're leaving the company. So if they have career development questions, I'm the person they'd reach out to. If they are going to go on leave, if they want to have a difficult conversation with either a colleague or their manager, I'm the person they would reach out to. If they, want to figure out how do I do some internal mobility? I've been in this space for a while and I want to move within the company, but I want to do something else. What's that process like? They would come to me. Basically anything that's, non-technical, work specific related, anything, that has to do with people, development, growth, training, career, those sorts of things. As an HR business partner, employees would come to me. And on top of that, I partner with the managers and the exec level leaders of the organization that I support, just to help align their strategy, what they're doing day to day and how they want to make money and, their strategy with the people strategy. So you need people to be engaged and fulfilled and happy in order to drive the business plan that you have. And so we work together to figure out how we can make that happen.
So I appreciate you walking us through that there. And that makes me get a picture as to the work that you do on your day to day. But we know from what you had shared with us earlier that that's not where you started out. So maybe you can take us to the beginning of your professional journey, wherever you happen to consider that to be. And let's walk us through your journey. We would love to experience what life was like for Dorianne.
Sure. So I always, whenever someone asks me about my career journey, I always start back in May of 2005, right after I graduated from Spelman. And at that time, I had a decision to make. I had two totally different paths to go down. So on one hand, I'd been accepted into Columbia's clinical psychology graduate program. I'd always, up until that point, thought I was going to be a therapist. And then on the other hand, I'd been offered a full-time opportunity at Goldman Sachs in their operations division. I'd interned there the summer before, and they'd given me this full-time offer. And so I had to decide, was I going to go down the academic route or was I going to go down the employee route? And so I thought that I had come up with a clever idea. So I said, all right, Columbia, I'm going to come, but I'm just going to defer for 1 year. And I'm going to go work at this place, Goldman, that I, only spent 3 months the summer before. Don't really know that much, but I'm going to make some money, save up because I know I'm about to be a broke graduate student. So let me just do that for a year. And what happened was that 1 year turned into just a little over a decade of me never looking back. I kind of got used to the money, to be frank, the paychecks, just the 9-to-5 lifestyle. I just got used to how things were going, and I actually never went back to school. And so starting in operations, that wasn't my plan. It wasn't what I was thinking that I was going to do, but I kind of ended up there and progressed over the years, and I did well and got promoted and, started to help to build a team out in Salt Lake City, Utah. I did a lot of things. And after about 4 years, I realized that this just wasn't what I wanted to be doing. Again, like I said before, I thought I was going to be a therapist. I had a psychology background. This being an operations manager wasn't what I could see myself doing. So I sat down and I had a heart-to-heart, one with myself. I had to be honest with myself. This is not the space that I want to be in. This is not the space that and no one's kicking me out. Like I want to stress that point, because sometimes people feel like the only time that they should be making a change is because something negative is happening. But there's often like a quiet little like tugging inside that says, this is not what I want to be doing. I really would have a better fit over here. I'm not really aligned with my purpose. Like you kind of have these quiet moments, and that's what was happening to me. So I had reflected with myself, and then I had a heart-to-heart with my manager, and we really started to think about like, what would my next move be? I enjoyed, the company that I was working for. They enjoyed me, and they wanted me to stay there. And so we worked out a way for me to look at internal mobility options. And around the same time, I had taken some classes on a whim at NYU, some intro to HR classes, and really just something was like clicked. I'm like, this is interesting. I thought HR was just about hiring people and firing people. I didn't understand that there were so many things that happened in between, and taking that course opened my eyes to that. And it really sparked an interest in me. And, just as, the stars would have it, like the way things aligned, that there was also an opening at the same company in an entry-level type of HR role, supporting the same, business that I was supporting as an operations manager. So it all just kind of worked together, and I was able to transfer into the same company, into this new HR department, and kind of start my HR career there. Once I was there, it was obvious from like literally day like 2 that this was what I was supposed to be doing. The fact that, I was still client facing, the fact that I was able to be a part of more just be more strategic. When you're in operations, especially sales and trading operations, it's kind of the traders, they tell you what to do, you execute on it, and you kind of do the same thing over and over again. Whereas when I went into HR, I was able, like, we had ongoing conversations. It was like no 2 days were the same. We were working on projects. We were doing things that directly affected our employees. Like, it was just really something that I felt like I could really do well. Unfortunately, the team wasn't the best. And, since then I've learned how important it is to, when you're going through an interview process, to pay attention to the people that you're going to be working with and working for, which at that time I was just so excited and blinded by the glitz and the glamour of moving to HR. I kind of didn't pay attention to that piece, but I knew though that even beyond the team dynamics, that the work that I was doing is what I was supposed to be doing. Like, I really love HR. I've been in it since then. That was back in I think 2010. And I haven't looked back. I really do enjoy HR. And then after some time, I left Goldman and went to another investment bank and enjoyed my time there as well. It was a smaller bank. So I was able to really dig into the business groups that I supported and really build relationships. The team dynamic was amazing. Like, I had a great boss. I had great coworkers. Like, it really worked out well for me, and I was able to elevate myself there. And then kind of 4 years later, and I said, all right, so I've been in finance, since 2005. It's now 2016. I'm ready to do something different, make a change. I thought about healthcare. I thought about nonprofit. And as I was just kind of mulling these things over, a recruiter from a advertising technology company reached out to me. And I guess the rest is history. I'm now HR professional in tech.
See, that is it just brings a great smile to my face here, Dorianne. Like, I'm just sitting here and I'm hearing this journey. And one of the things that really resonated with me is, like, as you were talking about this, you're like, yeah, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed this too. Like, it wasn't like you were going through your whole career and it wasn't a fun time or something that you felt challenged or was, it wasn't that it was like the wrong fit at during those times. You made sure you got what you wanted to from those experiences, and you learned along the way. But when it was time for you to make that next move, you also stayed open to those opportunities. So I feel like that's really, really interesting. And I guess one question that comes to mind is, it seemed like you were open to new opportunities, but it wasn't that like tech was like specifically on your radar. So like, what was it about technology or the industry or like being able to, like, maybe the problems you were going to be solving, whatever it was, what was it about it that got you thinking, yeah, you know what, I can actually take my next step in my journey in this direction?
Yeah, it's something that I think about it's, going up on a year that I've been in the technology industry. And I think about this, and when, people are talking to me, I'm asked this question a lot. And in hindsight, I could say that it was really just like tech has its own personality. Like you've worked in tech, it has it's especially coming from finance. It's like there's just a vibe that I can't really, unfortunately, like have another word to describe it. But I just remember going through the interview process and showing up at the office and just speaking to, who would be my boss, and just like the personality of the team and the personality of the company just really spoke to me. At this time where I am in my career, like I'm really looking just to learn as much as possible. And even you kind of touched on this before, like even though I've left other situations, like I typically don't leave until I've learned all that it is that I need to learn. And I just could tell throughout the process that I was going to learn so much, that this place that I am is just going to be an eye-opening experience. And yes, I'm still doing HR. Yes, it's, pretty much the same type of work I'm doing, but the community that I'm working with is completely different. The priorities are completely different. The pace is completely different. I know one thing in the interview process that kept coming up was that, oh my gosh, this place is so fast paced. This place is so fast paced. And I'm like, well, I work for Goldman Sachs. I work for, BNP Paribas. I've worked for places that are fast paced. And it wasn't until I actually got to the company that I realized, oh, technology fast paced is completely different from other fast paced. So whereas, I'd have an 8-hour day, and maybe I used to have like 3 meetings, and that was like a heavy day, like 3 meetings. Oh my gosh. And, maybe I'd only be able to take a 45-minute lunch instead of a hour lunch, and feel like, oh my gosh, this was a crazy day. And we'd have projects that we work on that would span like a year or 2 years, right? Now projects span like 2 months, and we look at things in terms of quarters and not even a full year. To look out to something like a year from now or 2 years from now is unheard of. Like, let's get through this quarter. Things are constantly changing, constantly shifting. The company that I'm working at, they really believe in failing fast is what they say. And so if something isn't working, let's change it, let's fix it, let's revamp it. We don't need to go through 5,000 layers of approvals, and let's make it happen. If somebody has something to say, let's put it on the calendar. Let's have a meeting right now. Let's not wait for 2 weeks. So, I'm really understanding what it really means to be in this space. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning on the fly. I'm learning by making mistakes. I'm learning by doing things well. I'm, have access to people that are willing to teach. There's just so many amazing things that I'm learning. I can feel myself stretching and growing and developing pretty much every day. So that's definitely one thing that's really attracted me to this industry, and what's keeping me here almost a year later.
See, that's really fun. Like you're learning, and it's through all the different types of experiences that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy for you. It feels like I'm still getting that sense of true enjoyment right there. Really enjoying.
Don't get me wrong. There's enjoyment, but there are there are some downsides to everything I just said. Like, things move too quickly, and people are wanting to meet, and so it's not like every job has ups and downs. So no matter what you're doing, there's going to be some things that you like, some things that you don't like. But I guess for me, for anyone, you should really think about what you value most. And right now, where I am in my career, I value learning. I value who I'm around. Like, I can remember being at, other companies and feeling like I really miss having that intellectual banter, and that, let's debate something and let's get to the root cause. And if you say something, somebody's going to say, well, why? Why do you feel that way? Like, I really miss that. And so I'm getting that again now where I am. So I think it's important that you figure out like what's most important to you. Know that there will be some trade-offs, but making sure that what's truly important to you at your core, that you're getting that from the situation you're in.
Oh, Dorianne, you just opened up something. Do you mind if I walk through that door with you here?
Sure.
You've mentioned a few times like purpose. That's been like a word that's come up, and you're like, I'd like to see if I was aligned with my purpose. And you now just ask employees, put the challenge on them to like figure out that value and what's important to them. For for those of us that maybe have not gone through the exercise or maybe haven't gotten a chance to really understand like what's important to us, we've just been kind of making forward progress, but we know that something's off and we know, and we want to align to something, but we haven't really defined that purpose yet or what we're valuing. Do you have any thoughts or suggestions and recommendations for us to start making progress along being able to define what that is for us?
Yeah. I think that process, I think goes from very tactical to very like abstract. And I think when people think of purpose, they immediately go to the abstract, like, oh, there's this lifelong journey and this search, and it will appear in my mind. And, you know, I will feel it in my core. Like, yes, that's possible. But I think it's way more, it's way easier to just think, let's start from where you are. So think about, okay, I've had at least one job in my life. And what were the things that I've done? I did really well there. What are the things that I sucked at? When did I feel the most, like, when was I in my flow? Like, when was I really just like going with it and just really, you know, just in a space of getting things done? Just ask yourself these questions. What have people complimented me on? You know, sit down and talk to former bosses or former employees. Talk to people who know something about your work ethic, and just start to put together like a portfolio of what are all of these things. And if you've had multiple jobs, that's even more things to pull from, and start to see what are the key themes, what are things that you do well, what are your strengths. And then more than, I think people do that, but then they kind of stay there. But more than that, dig a little deeper. So why do you think these things are your strengths? So in my case, you know, I used to say before I really went through this process that, yeah, I'm a people person. I like to talk to people and I like to, you know, to give advice. And it wasn't until I really sat down and thought about like, why do I like to give advice? And why does that make me happy? That I realized that at my core, which is something I said in the beginning, I'm a teacher and I'm someone who likes to inspire people to act. So no matter what that is, so right now I'm doing that through being an HR business partner and being a career coach. But maybe one day I'll actually be a teacher or a professor. Like, to me, it's more important to be aligned with what is it at your core that you want to be doing versus tying it to a specific thing, you know, or a specific job title or a specific company or to your purpose, quote unquote, if you feel uncomfortable, you know, going that deep. So I think it's just about going through some history, thinking about what are the things that you do well, thinking about what comes naturally to you, what are you aligned with, what resonates with you, and then go from there. It's an ongoing process to get aligned with your purpose. Today, I can speak to you confidently and boldly and tell you what it is I'm doing, but please know that maybe, you know, 10 years from now, I've evolved and be doing something else. Definitely 10 years ago, this wasn't on my radar. Maybe I was doing these things, but I wouldn't have been able to articulate it in this way. So it's definitely a progress. It's a process. It's definitely a journey that, you know, you need to be willing to take and cut yourself some slack, but really just pay attention. A lot of times when I talk to people and they say, I don't know what I'm good at, or I don't know what I want to do, they're not really paying attention. You know yourself better than anyone. You do know what you want to do. You do know what you're good at. You do know what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. It's about kind of tuning out of all the distractions, tuning out of what you think you should be doing or what people said you should be doing, and really turn inward and think about what is it, what really lights me up. And as small as it is, just take whatever you think and then just kind of build from there. And I think eventually you'll get to a place where you're able to either rule things out and say, okay, no, this is not actually what I thought it was going to be, or start to zone in on what actually your purpose is and what you should be doing. And then also just one more thing to add is that your purpose doesn't have to be like this, like, oh, my purpose is to go out and impact the world's hungry. Like, it doesn't have to be that grand. And if it is, that's great. But I think another thing people do is just put purpose on this high pedestal, and like it's something that's unattainable and just cannot ever be reached. Just really think at the core, what makes you happy? What makes you, like, what are you doing when you feel the most at peace? Or what have you done? Maybe you haven't felt that way in a long time. What have you done in the past where you feel the most at peace? And then to really work backwards from there.
Dorianne, I can say right now, like, you're in exactly the space that you need to be in. Like, the way that you approach this, the way that you have given us just like these thoughts about finding our purpose and being able to define it for ourselves and put it on a level that makes sense for us is just extraordinary. And, I am happy that you are following what's important to you at your core and stating what's important to you at your core, because it really, really comes through. And it just brings me great joy, because I'm like, man, Dorianne knows what she's about. And because of that, like we're getting so much value from this here. So Dorianne, what I'm going to do here is I like to I'm getting really great vibes and great picture of like how successful you've been in your career. And while that's the case, I know that like no one's journey is just full of only positive traction. So we'd like to spend some time taking a look at some of your an experience where you faced a roadblock, experience where you faced a challenge, especially like with the move into tech here, and like trying to make that successful. So maybe you can walk us through a specific project or a specific time that you've had recently where you feel that you might have even gone as far as to fail on it, and the steps that you took to overcome it.
Yeah. So when I think about failure in my career, there's one really big thing that comes to mind when I think about failure. And it's not recent, but it relates to something else that's coming up recently. So I'll kind of walk through that. But back when I first transferred into HR, I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but there were some interpersonal dynamics that didn't typically work well for me. And I think in hindsight, I can look back and realize that, I know I'm an introvert. I really have to go inward, and I really get energized from thinking through things myself and kind of reflecting, what did I say? What did that mean? And I do that. And coupled with that, I'm also like, I kind of don't really like change too much. And so with the things that I've mentioned in my career, like I've made some huge changes and transitions, and, my job is really outward facing. So I'm kind of operating in spaces that are not necessarily comfortable for me. And so when I did make that first change, this idea of belonging on the team, being an outsider. Yes, I was at the same company, but I didn't grow up in HR. I was a newbie. I'm coming from a different part of the organization. It didn't really mesh well. So that was my first thoughts of just like, this is not working. And I was there for 2 years, and I'm coming from a space where I was the top performer. I was like the golden child and always, the head of all the projects and, all of these things, coming to a team where it just wasn't the case. Like I really used to go home and think like, I'm not as smart as I thought I was. Like, why am I not getting this? Why is this not working? Like it was a very emotional time for me. And it ended with, us having to just part ways. It just didn't work out. So I feel like that to me was one of the big quote unquote failures. It's hard to say failure because it was the best thing that ever happened to me to separate from the company and kind of go on the trajectory that I'm on, but it didn't necessarily pan out the way that I wanted it to pan out. And how I relate that to recently is kind of when I made the transition into technology, the same sorts of feelings started to come up again. So not to the extent of the interpersonal, like I love the people I work with, my boss and my coworkers, love them, but this idea again of belonging, of, being the outsider and having to build relationships all over again and having to be a little bit more out there and extroverted, and these things just don't come naturally to me. And when I feel like I'm kind of out there too much, or I feel like there's so much change happening, I tend to not operate at my best. And so it's something that I just battle with, and I have to make sure to fight through that. And I'm coming up on a year, so definitely feeling more comfortable and definitely feeling like I'm finding my groove and finding my stride. But I think when I think about things that just didn't go well with me at work, it's all around this idea of just not feeling comfortable with myself or with the people that I'm around, and just not feeling like I had a support system in the space that I was in.
So Dorianne, wow, firstly, thank you. Thank you for just being open about that there. I think that is I think we can all relate to being in a place where we don't feel comfortable, especially for us that are making these kinds of career changes, and we put ourselves out there. And at the same time, it's like, am I one of you, Mm-hmm. And from what I'm hearing, there's definitely things where it might naturally feel like, yes, around me, everything seems to line up where like, yes, I should be like amongst you all, or like I should feel like I have my seat at the table or whatever it is. But like, there's still that internal conversation around belonging here, right?
Yeah.
And given that so many employees are likely going to be making a transition, or, you know, a lot of people probably have recently made a transition similar to this year, we'd love to just like explore a little bit here. Like, how are you, like what steps are you taking, even if it's just like one step or, you know, one takeaway that you found that have made this transition easier than the last one that you had, or the first one that you were telling us about? Maybe you can give us something like that employees can maybe add to their toolkit when they're experiencing the same feeling of, you know, not really belonging.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've done differently with this transition that I did with the other one is being vulnerable. Like, there's this book by Brene Brown. It's called Daring Greatly. And the whole premise of this book is just about how when you become vulnerable, when you put yourself out there and just be honest with how you're feeling, how just things start to change. So the fact that I'm able to tell this story, the fact that anyone who will listen, I will now tell them this story. I'm not ashamed of the first instance of transition that didn't go so well. When people ask me at my job, so how are things going? I'm honest and say, well, going through a rough patch right now, not really feeling like I'm meshing. Like, I'm just being vulnerable and being open. And I think people are receptive to that. And in my mind, or if someone is going through something similar, you may feel like no one will get you, no one will understand, something is wrong with you because you can't transition, or, how will you ever feel like you belong? But the amount of people that I speak to who says, wow, like I felt the same way, this exact thing happened to me, or I totally understand why you will feel that way. Here are some things that you could do to combat that. I think the number one thing I've been able to do is just being open and honest and vulnerable with myself and with people about how I'm feeling. And the second thing is just sometimes, I like to surround myself with people who are just going to give me that reality check. And my husband happens to be one of those people. When I am complaining about something, he's like, that doesn't really make any sense. I'm sure that's not what someone meant by that. I think you may be reading too much into it. So sometimes that tough love helps me to get out of my head and to understand that people are not out to get me, and that, that people want me to be successful and they want me to, feel like I belong and all of those things. And then I think also it's just learning from your own past. So there's so many things. Each time I leave a situation, I leave a job and I go to somewhere else, there's so much that I bring to the table and that I learn from my mistakes. When I transferred to, the second company I went from after I left Goldman and I went to this next company, all of the lessons I learned about, my part to play and why those relationships didn't work out and things I could have done differently, I brought that to my new company and I killed it. Like I just wasn't going to make those same mistakes. And then when I moved into this technology, all of the growth areas that I had from that company, I brought it over here. So I feel like doing those things, being vulnerable, having that support system, and then just learning from what didn't work before and making sure I don't repeat that again. All of those things have made this transition a lot more smooth. And, if I was doing this transition maybe 10 years ago, perhaps the outcome would have been different. But who I am right now, and what I know about myself and the confidence that I've been able to build over the years, I think have really been beneficial in this process.
Dorianne, I am so grateful for you right now. Like, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that. I have to say, like, those three things are really something that I myself am also going to be taking and growing and implementing into my life. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you for that. You mentioned this book by Brene Brown. It's called Being Vulnerable, you said? It's
called Daring Greatly.
Daring Greatly. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna put out something here. This is coming off the top of my head right now, but like, employees, any of you that are interested in reading this book here, I'm going to go and download it on Audible. I'm an Audible person. And I would love to have a conversation with you all about this at some point. So we can look and say, like, sometime in like early November, let's just get together and just talk about like some of this aspect. It's not a book club just yet, because it's just one book, but like, I don't know. It'd be really cool to take these insights and bring it into action. I think, Dorianne, when we do that, would you mind if we invited you to come be a part of that?
Awesome. Sounds good.
Awesome. So like, on this track of awesomeness and being awesome here, let's focus it now on a time when you were really awesome and it really brought you great joy in your professional journey. So can you tell us about a project or an undertaking at work where you felt you did really well and the steps that led up to your success?
Yes. We'll go recent. At my new company, like probably 5 months in, I was tasked with, we were rolling out like a whole new talent management program, like starting from scratch. And, we were going to create it, roll it out, socialize it, and implement it like all within the like a 3-month time span. When I say things move quickly in tech, that's what I mean. And I was tasked with being like the project, like the functional project leader, and also creating the content around this whole change. So like any toolkits or any guides or things that we were going to have, writing is also something that is a strength of mine and something that I enjoy doing. And they knew that. And so I was tasked with doing that. There were a lot of false starts. There were a lot of rocky roads, like along with this project. I still have my day-to-day. I still have my side business. I still have my family, my life. There were so many things happening, and being newer at the company. But I was able to get it done, working with my team, leveraging the people that, my coworkers, and really, again, being vulnerable and telling my boss when I was overwhelmed and when I needed a step back and can we do this together? Like all of the things I kind of just described. But at the end, there was a finished product that I was really proud of. We ended up rolling this out to the entire company. My words, like literally if I leave this company, like these things will live on. There's a whole vault with things that I put together and wrote and created for this process. And I was really proud of that. It may sound like a small thing, but just to come into a company, from scratch and still learning your way, but be able to create something that is tangible that people can use and that will be used, in the foreseeable future, to me was like a big accomplishment for me during one of the earlier periods of this new company.
Whoosh. I think that is so cool. Like within 5 months, you're coming out there and you're making not just like a contribution, not just like an impact, but like there's legacy to this thing here, right? So it's
right.
like you and it's so great that you're able to bring all of you to the table, not just your strengths, but like also the fact that you're willing to be vulnerable, and that helped make this a success all around. Congratulations there, Dorianne. Like if there was one takeaway that you would want employees to walk away with from this experience, what would that be?
I definitely say that you need to be the CEO of your own career. Like, I know how cliche that sounds, but literally take charge of your career. Gone are the days. Maybe this was the past, but now you cannot expect your boss to put you in a nice little pretty bow and give you your steps and get promoted and do this. You have to figure out what it is you want to do. At the core, I personally believe that it's about figuring out what your strengths and your purpose is first, and then letting everything fall from there. But if you're not ready to do that, at least try to think about what do I like to do versus what I don't like to do, and then try to create a career around that. So you need to take charge. You need to decide, where do I want to be in a year, in 2 years, etc., and then create a plan. Everything you do should be intentional. So if you know that you would like to be at this side, you want to be in tech in like the next 18 months, then what steps do you need to take to get there? Don't waste time doing things that are not going to get you to tech. Like literally make an intentional. People that know me well know that there's not a day that goes by I don't say the word intentional or deliberate. Like just be deliberate about what it is you're doing and making sure that it's getting you in the steps of where you're going. You are in charge. Whether you're an entrepreneur or you're this big, CEO of a company or not, you're in charge of your own career. And so that's the biggest takeaway I would want to leave with you.
Oof, we're going to take that intentionality. We're going to be deliberate employees. And we're going to make this come to life. Thank you, Dorianne, for putting that out there for us. And now, like, we've taken this time, we've looked at your journey from the beginning of where you started, and all through all these different like highs and lows. What I like to do is just take the time right now and just look at where things are right now and what's coming up for you in the future. So would you mind sharing with us something that just like excites you about your current journey right now, and something that's coming up that, we can all just celebrate and share with you?
Yeah, I'm coming up on 1 year in technology, and I am happy. Like there was some times in the beginning when I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to make it. But I'm just really happy for this milestone in tech. If anyone listening, that's a big deal to go through something and make it to a year in this space. Because again, we work in quarters, especially at my company. So the fact that I made it almost 4 quarters, like, is a big, huge deal. So I'm really excited. I'm interested to see what the future holds, what new projects will be thrown my way. So continuing to do that and continue to grow my business and to really just kind of go from there.
That is super exciting. And do you mind if we just spend just a little bit of time just talking about your business, your career, girl? I would love for if any employees want to just continue benefiting from some of the things you're saying, I would love to just like give us an opportunity to find out more about, there's some way that they can continue that journey with you.
Yeah, you can always find me at yourcareergirl.com. I blog, I have a podcast as well. My writing has been on the Muse. Just Google Dorianne St. Fleur or go to yourcareergirl.com. You can find me there. I'm all about empowering people to really just tap into their purpose and just move towards that career fulfillment that we all deserve. We all want and we all deserve.
Oh, thank you for that, Dorianne. Let's go ahead and end things on here and this aspect of empowerment and this aspect of, helping people take action. And I like to end these conversations just looking at the next week, right? We've heard a lot of different things. We've heard your stories. Now flipping things and focusing on employees. If they were going to make progress in their career so that they can find more enjoyment through employment, there was one thing that you were going to suggest for them to do in the next 7 days, what would it be?
There's just one thing I would say is to just find some way to assess what you're good at and what you should be doing, whether that's taking, strengths finders or, some sort of assessment like that, whether it's sitting down and reflecting with yourself, whether it's talking to someone who really knows your work ethic. Take some time this week to really figure out, what is it that I do well? What is it that I want to be doing? And why? Really get to know what and why. And then you can kind of take off from there and create plans around it and all of that. But for the first step is to just figure it out.
All right. And Joyce, you heard it. Dorianne's put it out there. And I think that's really, really a strong place to end this conversation. Dorianne, I just want to say really quickly, thank you so much for bringing your full self to this conversation here. Thank you so much for just, putting it all out there, for being vulnerable, for staying true to your core and helping us find just the strength that comes from just being who we are and bringing our best self to the things that we do. I really appreciate it. I know that employees out there are probably also in the same boat, we're just grateful for you taking the time, sharing your experiences and really just putting yourself out there for all of us to be able to move forward. So with that, I want to say, here's to experiencing joy each and every day. Take care, Dorianne.
Thank you so much, Nemo. Thanks for having me.
Employees, I really just can't get over how passionate Dorianne was during this conversation. And it's clear that she wants to see you be able to take these changes and be able to make these changes in your life. And I have to really commend her for just being vulnerable. And I hope that you recognize the level of vulnerability that Dorianne brought to this table. It seems that she's someone who really lives up to the things that she says. And through that, we got a chance to explore how, by being just more of herself, by finding out who she truly is at her core and the things that light her up at her core, she's able to add exponential value to the world and experience that enjoyment. So she had a simple ask of all of us. So let's make sure that we incorporate that into today's journey. And I think the main thing overall is just trying to figure out what excites us at our core. So for today's journey, which you can easily join by going to the Employment community over at employees.com and using the hashtag Joining28, come let us know what your challenges are to figuring out what you truly want at your core. If you already know what you want, we want to know about that too. Feel free to write it. Feel free to record it, write it down, draw it out, whatever it is, but let that out of your system and let us know, because this is one of the biggest challenges that we have. It's why I offer coaching specifically on this, just to help people understand, what do you want? Great. And now that you know what you want, how do we help you get that? Because it's possible, employees. And Dorianne laid out a great way for us to go ahead and make that happen. So let's jump into the community. Let's have these discussions. I'll see you over at employees.com and we're going to make some forward progress. This is the fun part. Actually, I would say growing and progressing toward your goal. I'll venture that as the fun part. Seeing the success in your life and in the people around you. Yeah, I think I'll say that's the fun part. Whatever the fun part is for you, we want to partake and enjoy it with you. So we'll see you over in the Employment community over at employees.com. And don't forget to apply for a coaching session over at employment.com/coaching. I'm ready and excited to explore this further with you. See you soon. And remember to do what brings you joy each and every day. Take care, employees.